Well, good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon. This is my weekly update on the legislative process. There's 2 weeks left of session, and things are winding down. Seated next to me is Representative Justin Cronin. He is the chair of the House Appropriations Committee. And I thought you may be getting tired of hearing and seeing from me, so I thought that we do a little educational seminar for a few minutes about the appropriations process. And then I'll give you my quick bill update. So, Representative Cronin, would you explain to my members and the public that tunes in, generally, how does the appropriations process work? And then if you'd give them the highlights on what are the real money issues that you're dealing with this session.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, folks. The appropriations, for most of the session, we're about 9/10 of the way through our budget hearings. We bring every single department of the state government and some of the divisions of insurance, the South Dakota retirement system, anything associated with state funds in front of this committee and go through their budget line by line. Like Tom said, the process is ancient. It's an age-old process. It seems to work all the time. A week ago, we met with the economic advisors in the state and got a somewhat of a ballpark picture as to where we're headed as far as revenues. So what we do was when we meet with every one of the departments, we start with the governor's budget. And as the governor's budget is curtailed for each independent department, we will focus on making some changes if we want to. But that all comes through the bill process and amendments to the general bill, which will be on the last couple of days of session. Not this Monday, but I believe it's the 8th of March, we will be meeting to finalize our revenues for this session. One of the big topics right now is our revenues are flat, not quite as high as we thought they were going to be. So that'll take some of our time and probably make some changes to our budget, or the governor's recommended budget. The legislature, of course, is the ones who pass the final budget. So the governor's budget is a proposal, and we work from that and move through it. A couple of the hot topics this year, of course, are any new spenders, any one-time spenders. There's the judge bills for the 2nd and 7th Circuit. There is one-time money for community service providers. There is the Pheasant Habitat Fund. There is emergency appropriations back to fill in for fires, floods down in the southeast part of the state. Those are things that we have to pass. The emergency appropriation is. The other ones listed are what are going to be up for discussion. And once we're done with the 2015 one-times, then we move into the 2016 budget. And that's really where you'll see the legislature negotiate with one another, negotiate with second floor, negotiate between the parties. And that all is going to be happening next week, beginning next week, and really we'll focus on the last week. Probably Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be the big days for that. We don't have a date set, but either Wednesday or Thursday of that final week will be the day that we will hear amendments to the general bill, and that's usually quite a drawn-out process. Anyone in the in the legislature can bring an amendment to that general bill, and they will have their time to speak to that amendment, and that could change the budget. But by next week, we're going to have a pretty good idea at the end of next week where we want to go. And then that following Monday, we'll be able to adopt a revenue number, and that could change everything.
Representative Cronin, I've been around for a long time, and so I know the answer to this. I see so many bills that have been coming out of appropriations where the committee slashes the appropriation and inserts $1. Would you explain the rationale in that process, please?
Absolutely. That's probably the number one question I get from on emails as well. Through this process, if we would start passing bills out at the funded amounts, every time you do that, it cuts back on the dollars that you have at the end of the year. So the process that appropriations has kind of adopted is if the idea is a good idea and it has support, we take that dollar amount down so they can keep it in discussion. You take something out at $1 million to the House floor, or to even get it out of committee, not everybody may agree with that actual bill. But this will come down to priorities of the Republican and Senate caucuses and the Democrat Senate and House caucuses, to come up with an agreement as to which ones we will fund and which ones we won't. It's basically a popularity contest at the end of the year for that. But you pass it out with $1, it's a heck of a lot easier to just keep the discussion going on a bill.
We used to refer to it as the killing of the baby seals, because your committee entertains all kinds of meritorious programs and there's simply not enough money to go around. And that is the prioritization process, and I assume the negotiation process, where your body may have a higher priority with some things than perhaps your counterparts in the Senate.
Right. That day will be next Friday, I'm assuming. So that's the last day that we can really move bills. That's our last bill hearing for the House appropriations. And then from that point on, any bills that come before appropriations will be the joint committee. Yep.
Well, Representative Cronin, I want to thank you for taking the time to explain to my members, and if you'll just give me a couple more minutes. House Bill 1065, which is our voting trust bill, came through the business law section. The governor has signed that bill. And in cases of shared parenting, that's 1068, where the court would now have the authority to grant or consider cross credits. That's been signed by the governor. House Bill 1099 is the bill for charging orders on LLPs. That has been through both houses and is down on the governor's desk for his consideration. I'll throw out one other bill, and that's Senate Bill 73. Senate Bill 73 is a substantial revision on how to handle CHINs, children in need of supervision, and juvenile delinquents. And it's very similar to Senate Bill 70 from a couple years ago, where we as a public policy setting, both the court and the legislature and the governor are attempting to reduce incarcerations and reduce placements, particularly of the juveniles now, in an attempt to keep them in their home communities. There are substantial changes in that bill. I look forward to it. It rolled through the Senate unanimously. I think the House will treat it similarly, and clearly the governor's going to sign it. So I commend that to you for your review, because there will be a substantial difference in the role that not only the court plays in handling juveniles, but also you, my members, for those of you who work with juveniles. And that's the end of our report. Hope you have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in.